Following a Scottish referendum, evil sea otters, and acronyms, we go once again into the multiverse with Judd and Noah.
Alright, so welcome to the third episode of Into the Multiverse with Judd and Noah. I'd like to put the disclaimer that we usually always try and include first. This is a highly opinionated podcast.
Super opinionated.
These are our opinions, and you can comment that you fucking hate them in the comments if you want to.
We encourage you to. We don't get many comments, so you know what? Anything is good, even if it is disdainful and venomous.
Sadly, we have neither Ian nor Jazzer here today, so we're doing this in a room by ourselves.
Super by ourselves. There is in fact no one else here.
Uber by ourselves?
I wouldn't go that far.
Alright, so I wanted to open up with this article. It's titled, U.S. Man Arrested for Trying to Swim to North Korea Told border guards he wanted to meet Kim Jong-un.
I want to just point out that on the face of this article, which you'll probably be able to see if you are watching our YouTube video, because we'll probably link to it in the description, I just want to point out, Kim Jong-un just looks freaking positive. I mean, look at that smile. Look at that gait. He's just excited, and he's happy to be here. And look at all of his attendants. They're just like, man, everything's great.
I mean, he looks so gay. I'm gonna die now.
Yeah, he looks really happy, and his patrolmen look really happy too. I bet they're all pretending, except for Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un's just like, everything's peachy.
I bet they just called the South Koreans and Americans stupid, and they made a joke, and everybody's laughing.
I bet they were a little bit like, those South Koreans and Americans, they are so much inferior to our superior skills and nuclear weapons and our handsome leader. Ha 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 ha. And Kim Jong-un was like, I agree with this joke very much. I approve of it. It may now be put onto the internet for all to hear. Ha 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 ha. It's probably something like that.
It's a one-vote system in which you have one person. It takes a vote on whether it can be approved or not. It's very efficient. Things get by quite quickly.
Absolutely. There's lots of death and mortality rates among the poor, and actually very few rich, so lots of mortality rates, but very efficient. I want to point out just a quick little aside. We are in no way supporting or making light of the terrible situation in North Korea. We are making light of it. I won't admit that, and I mean I won't disguise that fact. So we apologize for that, but perhaps making light of a bad situation is in a lot of ways healthy. So hopefully we're not offending anybody.
It's dark humor. Is it ironic that dark humor is the process of making light of dark situations?
We don't know. We don't know what ironic means.
What is irony? Whoa.
Is it ironic that irony is not made of metal, but iron is a metal? Is that ironic? Huh?
No, that's not ironic.
I know that.
Alright, so Alright, the man I'm reading from the article right now, and I will definitely link this article within the description. The man was apprehended Tuesday night while lying on a bank of the Han River in a restricted military area near the border. I would assume that's the DMV zone, said the official, who spoke on condition of anonymity due to office policy.
By the way, it's DMZ, not DMV.
Shh. I said DMZ.
I said DMV.
Okay, I was a bit off focus. I meant DMZ if I said DMV. And no, I will not listen back and prove myself wrong. I said DMV. So, I read this article earlier, a bit of it, and what happened was this 29-year-old American was in a trip in South Korea, and he tried to swim across the river because he wanted to meet Kim Jong-un. That's the reason he gave for doing highly illegal activity by trying to cross the DMZ zone.
So, my primary question here is actually not just making light of the ridiculum of wanting to get into North Korea. I mean, that's obviously ridiculous. North Korea is a terrible place to want to get into, and this individual is obviously very
Don't
mistaken.
discriminate, Judd.
You know what I mean. My main question here is why? Like, not even in a deriding way. It's honestly me asking, what was his reason for wanting to meet? Did he want to chide Kim Jong-un? Did he want to congratulate him? Did he want to ask him questions? What was the reason? Did he give a reason for wanting to meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, it's all in a court of law right now, I believe, so it may not be completely officially out there, besides the fact that he just wanted to meet Kim Jong-un. Because, Kim Jong-un's he's very famous. He's a very famous person, obviously.
That he is.
Will it make more sense if I said this guy is from Texas?
It's interesting that you would say that, because there are certain, stereotypes, I suppose, on the matter. Is the individual last name Hunsikar? Is that the individual? Yeah, it's Hunziker. Hunziker, who apparently made the swim on a drunken dare, was accused of spying and detained for 3 months. So it was a drunken dare. Huh.
Alright. Well, I believe that was referencing to a different story in which somebody may have done something else, because
Oh, it
did
was?
say came to South Korea 10 days ago, and it said that took place back in 1996.
Oh, yes. So that was a different individual,
Yeah.
but still.
I feel like I'm not close enough to the mic right now. Should I speak louder? Well, they can't answer me, so...
I'll answer you. It's always a good idea to speak louder.
Loud enough?
he had the microphone in his mouth.
Alright, so something else happened. Well, not really speaking of anything here besides North and South. Scotland attempted to secede from the UK, so they had a democratic vote in which around 84% of the Scots said they did not want to secede from the UK.
But don't worry, because the Scots shall rise again.
So would you say Scotland is like Quebec for Canada or Texas for America?
Absolutely. It's a direct, or Catalonia for Spain. It's a direct comparison. And I think the fact that this is a huge thing. The mere fact that the Scotland independence vote gained so much steam and so much international coverage, it speaks volumes for the Catalonia independence movement, for the Texas independence movement, for the Quebec independence movement. It is amazing how much momentum it gained. And it is equally amazing that 84% of the eligible voters voted in this campaign. 84%. That is more.
Well, that's not what I didn't say 84% of the people eligible voters voted. I said 84% of the people that voted that they did not want to secede.
It was 55%. 55% voted no, 45% voted yes, and out of all of the eligible voters in Scotland, 84% voted, which is a bigger voter turnout than the American presidential election.
I must have read the article wrong, because what I read, I'm probably butchering something right now. Either I'm butchering it or you're butchering it.
It was a 55 to 45. Trust me.
Oh, because what I read, I thought it said that 55%. It had to be 55% or above of yes and able to.
It was a simple majority vote. It was if 51% voted yes and 49 voted no, the yes would rule out, and the same is true on the contrary.
Well, this is embarrassing. Now I have to go apologize to my AP Human Geography teacher.
Haha.
Anyway, we talked about this in AP Human Geography, and we said such...
He keeps highlighting the fact that he's in AP Human Geography.
I'm not allowed to call it human... I have to... Anybody who mentions it usually says AP Human Geography the first time they say, and then I think some people say APHG.
I've always heard AP Human.
Okay, AP Human. In
Oh,
AP.
I'm just, it's fine. It's fine.
No, no, no.
I was just joking.
In
Continue.
in AP Human, we talked about it and we mentioned that Scotland doesn't necessarily have enough resources that are in such demand in order to keep itself economically stable in the case that it did secede.
I would agree, and that's very interesting because I believe that that's true. I now I'm not a Scot. I've never been to Scotland. I'm not able to speak with complete educational soundness that this is true. But I do believe that Scotland, I agree, I don't think Scotland has the resources to stabilize an independent country, which is interesting because all of the Scottish yeses that have been interviewed on American media, their rallying cry is that um, Scotland has a great amount of resources and a small population, which is the algorithm for economic stability as an independent nation, according to these Scottish yeses, which is very interesting because I don't think that's true.
Well, they may be highlighting on the fact, and I would believe that they have a dispersed population to where they will be able to grow enough food to keep themselves stable.
Yes.
But in the fact of in the international market, I believe they have no product in which other countries would want to buy.
There's one product, and it's a big one, and that's the North Sea oil. There is oil out the wazoo in the North Sea. But the thing is, that was one of the biggest concerns in the Scottish independence vote. The United Kingdom, that and the pound, being the United Kingdom said the North Sea oil, right now the North Sea oil, a third of it is given to Britain, a third of it is given to Ireland, and a third of it is given to Scotland, I believe. And that, money can be used within that province. I don't know if that's the exact math, but I'm pretty confident. Now, in the event of Scottish independence, the UK said that the Scots would still only keep a third of that oil, and the other two-thirds would go to Ireland and the UK. But the Scots said that because the oil was in the North Sea, it belonged to it was in Scottish waters. So if Scotland became independent, it would get 100% of that oil. And so that was a big concern, a primary debate in the Scottish economy question, as to whether or not the Scots would be able to support themselves I will learn to talk one day, if they became independent. Bleh. And then the other main issue would be the pound. And it's a very similar issue. The Scots are operating under the assumption that they would get to keep the pound and would get to use the pound, and the pound would remain a usable and effective currency unit in Scotland. They were under the impression that we will keep the pound and we will use the pound correctly. And the UK said, if Scotland secedes, there will be no use of the pound. The Scots will have to come up with their own currency, and if that were the case, it would be worth, probably because of the youth of the nation, it would probably be worth a lot less than the pound, probably worth a lot less than the dollar, and it wouldn't be a very good situation, which is precisely why the Scots wanted to keep the pound, because it's already proven to be a successful currency unit.
I left you hanging right there.
I was just... Noah had to leave for a minute, so I was just like, I'll just talk one-sided and pretend he's here, I guess? Question mark?
Well, I heard some of what you said about them keeping the pound.
The Scots wanted to keep the pound. The UK said that if Scotland became independent, they would not be able to use the pound.
The pound is... Well, don't you think the pound, in a sense, is a bit of a fuck you to the European Union? Because they didn't take the euro.
It absolutely is. That's what the pound is. The euro is not a very
well, it's
effective.
It's doing quite well right now. It's better than the dollar.
Really, it is.
Yes,
That's new. I was under the impression that the euro wasn't doing very well. It hasn't in recent years, but does Greece use the euro, or does Greece use the...
Greece does use the euro, and they were dragging it down for the bit, but when
I
say...
they were going to use the drachma, weren't they?
When I say euro, I mean... When you say euro, you usually mean that German currency that everybody else in Europe uses.
Oh yeah.
Germany is
Germany's the only one that knows how to use it.
everybody else are like his spaghetti for meatballs. That was very racist right there. But it's okay.
Yeah, Germany is a very successful and powerful economic. I've heard it compared to, and we're getting off topic a little bit, but that's the point of the show. I've heard Germany called the European America, and it's really the euro is strongest in Germany. Other countries aren't using the euro quite as well, and the United Kingdom is part of the European Union, but is not part of the eurozone because it uses the pound instead of the euro, and it's working out for them. I mean, the pound is worth more than the euro. It's more trustworthy and effective and stable currency unit than the euro, so I'm not blaming them.
We watched a documentary, we watched part of a documentary in German class about the average German. Many people in Germany, it is frowned upon to use any social networking site or even a phone, personal calls within the workspace unless it's an absolute emergency, as well as, well, the documentary came out of the UK, so I'm not exactly sure how it relates to US hours. They work 1 hour less than people in the UK do, and they are more productive than people in the UK are in terms of what they put out. So it went deeper into it, and what it said was that I forgot what they were called, but they were basically apprenticeships where some some people out of high school, instead of going to college, they would be in these apprenticeships in which they learn manufacturing techniques.
I go to a technical charter high school. Not to boast, but well, it's not charter. It's a public. I go to a like a STEM high school here in Georgia.
He didn't get in there from grades. He got in there for luck. From luck.
It was a lottery. Because the way it works is it's a public school, so they're funded publicly, so they're not allowed to get in by grades. They're not allowed to screen by grades. They have to do a lottery. But I did get in, and we are part of a sister program with a school in Leipzig, Germany. So this week and next, German students are in from Leipzig. So yeah, they're exchange students from Leipzig. And one of them did a presentation for our German class, all about the German school system, and he was talking about what you were just talking about, and it is every other Tuesday the German students don't have to go to school. Instead, they go to these apprenticeships and learn the trade from a scientist or from a place of technical standing or something like that. It is like an apprenticeship, and they do that every other Tuesday instead of going to school.
Germany, why are you more efficient than us? It's not fair.
It's because they're European.
Well, going back to the European Union discussion, did you know that Turkey is currently in the process of... They are about to be accepted within the European Union.
That'll be interesting. Because they're Asian, not European. What are they going to start calling it, the Eurasian zone?
Well, a cousin of mine went to Istanbul.
Really?
Recently, yeah, and
What for?
he was just traveling. He got out of high school or college recently, and he just decided to travel all over Europe and North Africa. He got pictures.
How does he have the funds? Does he just pick up odd jobs along the way, or is he from a wealthy family, or...
He's not from a necessarily wealthy family. A lot of it was money that he saved up for quite a while, in which that he finally got to take his trip into Europe and North Africa and Turkey. He went to Morocco and got a really great picture of the Sahara Desert, in which you see the dunes, and you can see in the distance, you can see nomads within the picture. Really? Just a trail of them. It's really interesting.
That's pretty awesome. It'd be funny if he like traveled around Europe and traveled around Eurasia and North Africa, and he just got pictures of himself in the same position, but in a different backdrop. Like every picture was him in the exact same stance, like 2 thumbs up. but just with different backdrops, almost as if he photoshopped them. But he didn't Photoshop them, which what makes it cool.
Oh, so when he went to Istanbul, he it's very the culture in there. There's very many different cultures, and they're integrated in such. There are many tourists in the area, and I say tourists, even though he's a tourist. Sometimes tourists can be a bad thing because there's tourist towns in Greece and such
Tourist towns in Greece?
where people, yeah, in like in the Caribbean and such.
Oh,
I
yeah,
call
yeah,
them
yeah.
tourist towns where everybody's meant to appease the tourists because that's the main source of income.
Yeah, tourism is really, really good for home economy. It's almost 100% of the economy of the islands in the Bahamas.
That and Oprah, because she bought either a house or an island, I believe so, down in the Bahamas. Anyway, in Istanbul, there are many tourists and people, but there are also many people living there. He said it was very interesting because technology, it wasn't like you would see technology down in Syria or Iran or Iraq where it was very scarce. It was everywhere, but they still followed the traditions, the traditions of the Islamic religion, in which some of them would wear the.
Hijab?
Yes, I'm not exact. I don't want to butcher the names, and I'm not exactly aware of the
I believe
names.
it's hijab.
Some of them would. There would also be people who weren't, and it didn't seem like there was a big,
Shaming of the people who
yeah,
weren't.
big uprising or shaming of the people who weren't. It wasn't like as if it was Sharia law or anything. So Turkey seems to be doing very well on an international level, and he actually happened to meet people from America who were also traveling who were in Istanbul at the time.
Oh,
They had the call to prayer in the morning where they would yell out of the window.
yeah, yeah. They
And
do that in Israel and in Egypt, in Jerusalem and in Egypt too.
you're a bit farther.
They do the same thing in Jerusalem and in it's quick aside, it's Jerusalem, not Jerusalem. I mean, you could say Jerusalem. I'll probably say Jerusalem, but I like to use the closer to home pronunciation. And maybe I'm butchering it. Maybe I'm not doing it right, but my point is in Jerusalem and in Egypt they do the same thing. They'll ring bells and call from windows for the call to prayer in the morning.
It's quite in. He said it's very loud. It's like because
It's like a 4 o'clock alarm.
yes, it would wake him up because it was so loud. All right, so
So, coming back to the Scottish referendum, if I can just really bring it back around before we move on. I really do think that the Scottish independence vote, even though it got turned down, it it says something for all kinds of independent. Like I said, the examples we used were Quebec and Texas and Catalonia. First of all, the fact that it got so much momentum, despite the fact that it started pretty small, just like Texas and Catalonia and Quebec, it got so much momentum that it gave a lot of opportunity to those other movements, and then it got kind of shot down. So what does that say for the Texas, Quebec, and Catalonian independence movement? Does it give them hope, or does it kind of dash their hopes?
well, from one article I read, it said that I forgot the name of the politician, but there's a politician within the UK that promised that if Scotland voted no, not to secede, they would give Scotland more autonomous powers.
Yes, that was the main factor in why they got beat by a 10% difference. Because David Cameron, Prime Minister of the UK, said, Scotland, if you stay part of the UK, we'll give you goodies.
And there was one person of a call to arms within Scotland who had previously called the offer panicky is now calling on the offer to be met. So
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're going to give up the independence of your nation, I mean, yes. Well, great. Well, here we are. We did what you wanted. We're not independent. Now, where's the loot? I mean, of course he's going to...
Well, yes, of course, but it's a bit of a it's a bit of a two-faced thing
Oh
where
yeah.
he's not
What
exactly
isn't?
he's not what politician isn't. He's not exactly acknowledging that he had previously called it panicky, because the people that sided with Scotland independence within Scotland are going to have to switch their ideals very quickly.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I think the way I see it is probably the yeses, the Scottish yeses this is probably what's going through their mind from last night to tonight. Um, we are going to, we're gonna rock this vote, and it's gonna be a Scottish independence, and it's gonna be amazing, and we're gonna be, it's gonna be great and crazy, and we're excited about it. And then by the time the vote comes in, all right, we lost, fair and square, that's fine. But if we've lost, then you better deliver on what you promised, because if we lost and don't get the loot, we're gonna be pissed.
Well, of course they will deliver, but I'm not exactly sure in what way they will deliver.
David Cameron released a statement saying that he was going to start applying those principles on how to improve, on how to give more autonomy to Scotland starting in January.
Every time you say David Cameron, I think James Cameron. James Cameron, now Prime Minister of the UK, brings the production of Transformers into the entire country.
James Cameron directed Avatar and Titanic.
Titanic?
Titanic. We love JonTron. That was credit to JonTron. We give credit to JonTron fully there. It's copyright JonTron. Go watch JonTron. But not before you finish our video.
I get mixed up with all these directors' names because they're all like last name that could be a first name.
David Cameron, he directed Transformers, right? David Cameron directed Transformers?
Yes, the Prime Minister of the UK directed Transformers.
I knew it. Oh, by the way,
in China.
Did you know that the First Minister of Scotland, whose first name I can't remember, his last name is Salmond, he was leading the charge to get Scottish independence. He resigned today. And I think there's theory that he was forced to resign in the wake of the defeat of the yeses.
I would think that after this, we may be seeing something of a call to independence within Northern Ireland, because Ireland does not want to be closer to the UK. Ireland and UK don't England specifically, yeah, they don't exactly have a colorful and
they have a very colorful relationship.
They don't exactly have a fruitful past.
I don't believe Northern Ireland wants to leave the UK. I believe Northern Ireland is pro-UK. Ireland is independent. It is definitely anti-UK. Ireland is, the independent nation of Ireland is, Catholic, very Irish. Well, of course it's very Irish, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Very Irish, very Catholic, and there are other, like the Irish, the Catholic minority. The UK is very Protestant. So, Ireland never got along with the UK, never felt represented, really wanted to leave. Northern Ireland is Protestant, and I believe Northern Ireland is just fine being with the UK.
Is there a certain... Did all of the pro-UK people just suddenly move to the north and then say, we want to be part of England?
I think it's just demographics, kind of like you're learning in AP Human Geography.
Whoa, how did you know that?
Well,
do you know about the demographic transition?
I don't know anything about AP Human Geography because I don't take it. Because I am at a technical school. I don't like being at technical school. I want to be taking social studies classes. I want to be writing and reading. I don't like science.
Well,
help me.
Even though AP Human Geography is obviously very hard and the tests are brutal, it's still fun in the class when we have the discussions, because human geography is very relevant to almost everything.
It seems like such an interesting class. It seems like something that would just capture my fascination. But, as an ending remark, if I may wrap up the segment, I am very interested as to what this could mean for the Catalonian, for the Texan, for the Quebecian, for and there are other independence movements around the. I'm curious what this means. Probably nothing. Like in if we're gonna be honest, probably means nothing for them. It probably, there probably won't be an independent Catalonian Republic. Texas will probably not secede, and Quebec to me is the most likely because there is such a gap in. There's almost as much a gap between Quebec and Canada as there is between Ireland and UK. And Canada is much more likely to give Quebec independence.
Yeah, because there's even sort of a small bit of a language barrier due to...
French and English is...
Well, you had to confirm that for me.
I mean, not for you, for people that don't know.
Alright, for people that do not know. People in Quebec will sometimes be known to speak French.
Or English. And a few of them speak Klingon, but only the Quebecian nerds.
The Shrekkies.
Alright, but it'll be very interesting to comment if you think that, because we're Americans, obviously, so, the Texas independence stirrings are, for those outside of America who have probably not heard a single thing about the Texas independence movement is by no means gaining as much steam as Quebec or Ireland or Scotland, but it's still kind of interesting because Texas there's such a thing about Texas here in America. So, it'll be interesting to see what it means for for anything.
So I just had an idea, just to you're seeing it right now. Just to stem, but from the conversation we just had, but on a lighter note, I pulled out I looked up a map in which it shows how Europe sees America, and I'll link this. But what the map shows is on the West Coast, you have California stemming all the way from the north to south on the West Coast. In the New England area, in the northeast, you have New York.
The whole thing, all of New England and Maine is New York.
And then the rest of the U.S. is called Texas.
Which is more accurate than you might think.
And then there's Holiday.
And conversely, how America sees Europe. Spain is labeled Mexico. Portugal is labeled Brazil. The Mediterranean Sea is labeled swimming pool. The UK is labeled mummy. Ireland is labeled St. Patrick. That's Iceland, right?
Yeah.
Iceland is labeled WikiLeaks.
And Poland
is labeled dirty porn. Oh no, wait. No. Poland is buffer zone.
Yeah,
dirty porn is Germany.
And then Godfathers is all of Italy.
All of Italy is Godfathers.
Turkey is Thanksgiving. Greece is democracy. Thanksgiving meal for Turkey. Greece is democracy, and then all of Russia
is just labeled commies.
Yes, I quite like this. Switzerland is labeled cash.
France is smelly people. That's Luxembourg. Switzerland is labeled chocolate.
That's not Switzerland. This is Switzerland.
That's Switzerland? What's
this? You did not know that's Switzerland?
What's that?
That's Luxembourg, the little blue one.
Oh, so what's chocolate then? Oh, Belgium. It's Belgium.
And then there's the Netherlands.
Sodom. and Austria is Appelkuchen.
And then all of here.
All of Norway. Socialist Union.
Norway, Sweden, and Finland is all the Socialist Union.
And what country is this right here?
That's a bunch of countries. It's labeled Resident Evil.
It's like the Czech Republic and
Romania is labeled Dracula.
I love this map. I'm posting this on my wall.
I'd like to point out that all of Ukraine is also labeled commies. We see the future.
The future.
Also the past.
And the present. Yeah.
Alright. So, is there anything you want to talk about before I go on?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I
Oh,
ha-
here's here's another one. All right, let's see. Okay, this is how Americans see Europe. All Europeans are obsessed with soccer. Iceland, volcano, weird language, hot blondes, bad guys, and Mighty Ducks 2.
Ireland, red hair, alcoholics, potatoes, the color green.
You two. Portugal.
What?
It's not Spain.
Wait. I may sound stupid. I don't know exactly what U2 is.
It's a Irish band.
I've heard that it's very hated right now.
I don't know. Oh, U2. It's not so much hated as it is iTunes, or Apple via iTunes, gave out U2's new album to every iTunes subscriber and for free, and they just downloaded it automatically. They didn't they didn't say, "Would you like to download the new U2 album for free?" They just gave it to everybody automatically. And a bunch of people were like, "I don't want the new U2 album on my thing right now. It is not good. I don't want it." No.
Well, you have to go ahead and delete a bunch of things because that takes up space. Apple continues to pull bullshit, and they still have all the iPhone 6s sold out right now. All the pre-orders sold out. Alright, so we're going to continue.
Poland is Polish jokes not very intelligent, which is sad because I am of Polish descent.
I'm not, so I don't have to care about that.
You're of Irish descent, aren't you?
Irish, English, UK and Scotland, Braveheart.
Everyone wears kilts, haggis, and golf. And UK England is fish and chips, bad teeth, James Bond, Harry Potter, can't hold down a colony.
I saw a photoshopped image of the Queen, and it just had the caption, "Look at all the countries I used to own."
Greece is home of the euro, and country totally broke. Bulgaria, aren't they part of Russia?
You,
Read Vatican City.
Pope, the child molestation, the Da Vinci Code. I read that book. This is a pretty good book.
Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldavia, and Belarus. Those are countries? Question mark.
Russia, communism, hackers, vodka, and
Anna Kournikova. Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Macedonia, Montenegro, and Croatia. Lots of organized crime went to war.
This is probably emphasizing the fact that political humor is something that's very popular among our circle of friends.
We love it. Moldova. Doesn't exist, never heard of it.
Ukraine, Chernobyl, everyone's rude.
Okay, let's, you had something you wanted to show me?
Well, I'll pull it. That's obviously what I wanted to show you. I link all my stuff. I have some stuff that isn't necessarily funny. That's why I want to get a lot of this humor. I wanted to get a bunch of humor into this segment because I have some stuff that isn't necessarily funny, but it's still, in a sense, interesting.
Not in a sense interesting, in a sense. I misunderstood what you said at first. I thought you said, it's still in a sense interesting, but you meant in a sense. I'm sorry, I just
Alright, so... Wait. Don't read it. So, even though this comes from one of the most hated news networks ever, Fox News, it's still, I consider it, this article itself doesn't have to be subject to the discrimination against Fox News, which is completely legitimate. But still, I'm reading the headline right here. Former Auschwitz guard, 93, charged with accessory to 300,000 murders within Germany. He worked at. I read this article because I wanted to figure out what exactly it was. He worked as the he sorted through many of the items that were given to him, such as money and loot, and those would go to the Nazi party, as well as working just as a guard. And Germany is obviously still haunted by its past of the Third Reich and Nazi regime. So they have put it was a bit vague. It said new laws have brought this man to be charged with it.
He helped the Nazi regime benefit economically and supported the systematic killings, state prosecutors in the city of Hanover said in a statement.
They can't necessarily prove that he supported it, and if he denied it, he would probably end up on the other side of the gate. So it's a bit I would say it's a bit unnecessary because first of all, he's 93 and I'm pretty sure he has thought of the crimes he's seen quite a bit and has had enough suffering. I would say suffering to let him live and go without acknowledgement or punishment is probably a bit more suffering than just killing him off. And now he's 93. He worked at Auschwitz.
My goodness, it's a bit
I would
excessive to. This is almost like justice through scapegoats, which is really, I suppose, inappropriate for me to say, if you can forgive me, because the Jews did function as a scapegoat for almost. This is almost grimly appropriate, The Jews in the Third Reich functioned as a scapegoat for all of Germany's economic problems. The Third Reich blamed the Jews for the problems Germany was experiencing and systematically exterminated them because they were a scapegoat. And now this individual, Gerning, is almost functioning the same way. Almost, he didn't necessarily commit any crimes. We don't know whether he did or not, but it is possible that he did or didn't commit crimes, and it's interesting that he's being used as a scapegoat. He's being used as, well, here is a symbol of the Nazi regime, and if we disgrace this symbol, then we're disgracing the Nazi regime, which is almost sad because it's almost exacting vengeance, and I'm personally a real big anti-vengeance kind of guy, but at the same time, it's hard to go against anything that is, it's hard to be anti-Holocaust, and I'm not anti-Holocaust. I am anti-Holocaust, of course.
I'm bringing up the point that I believe the window of time for him to be punished has already passed, and unless he openly states that he still supports what the Nazis did, I don't believe he should be subject to any punishment while he's 93 years old.
I would agree. It's just a bit excessive, I think. But this is a really tough case to back or unback. Unback is not a word, but never mind. Because, if you're backing it, then you're being a little excessive and unnecessary to this 93-year-old man. And if you're not backing it, that's... I suppose that's a good question. Is being against the punishment of a former Nazi make you a bad person in and of itself?
I would say, of course not. Of course it doesn't. Because, first of all, this man is 93 years old. And
I would agree, for what it's worth, but go on.
And that he continues to... I'm pretty sure that he went through much suffering, and I'm not necessarily sure if he has children or grandchildren, but if he does, you'll have... I don't know if you do, but some people have relatives that went to war, and whenever they ask them about it, they won't talk about it. I would say that it would be more extreme with this, where this man would be so ashamed of his actions, and knowing that he was on the wrong side of such actions, it would just tear him apart inside.
It's representative of a lot of what Germany feels. Germans are not outspokenly nationalistic people because of the sort of, with respect to Germany, shameful past. And this case is curiously and almost in a grim kind of sense appropriately representative. Like, this man is. This is a very interesting case. This is very interesting how almost symbolic it is.
My father spent some time in Germany as, I believe it was either 1 or 2 years, as a high school student, due to the fact that his father would go around due to, his father worked in the military, and he went to West Germany at the time to convince people that were retiring from the army to not retire. They'll have people that say there still needs to be work done. Anyway, my father had made a friend. Well, he made quite a few friends, but one friend of his, he went over to said friend's house, and his friend, as Germans they are very proud of their technological prowess. He showed him, he was very proud of, he had World War II things like old guns and such and equipment, but then when my father tried to bring up the war, the guy said, "We don't talk about the war." It's almost taboo in Germany to talk about the Nazi regime, the Third Reich, and anything surrounding such event, as they've pretty much fully recovered economically quite a bit.
Almost a full turnaround. Germany is one of the richest countries in the Eurozone.
I would say the only reason why they haven't turned around completely is because of this. Is because they and I would not say that they should acknowledge, well, condone, because the Nazis were awful, but I say that they should at least, instead of completely ignoring that the event happened, they're putting off the time at which they'll have to come to terms. And the more time you put into that, the farther the gap is between the time and superstition, well, not necessarily superstition, but beliefs will build up, and they'll just become more stronger over time as they're enforced.
Yeah, I would agree. This is a very interesting case.
Anyway, so there's one thing that I brought down. Well, there's two things. I can't mention the one thing because that would sound bad right now. The other thing I brought down here, I have a box right here. I kind of spoiled it by saying within the box there's a book, but in place of the other game that we're going to do this game in which I will give you...
What's in the box?
Yes, what's in the box? So, you will try and guess what's in the box by me giving you 1 to 2 hints, and I've got to think of a hint here.
Okay, let's start with one hint.
Alright, it is related to a project that we did one time in 8th grade.
In the 8th grade.
Yes, it's somewhat related to that. Not as in the context of the project, but something that came up during our stay down here in these two very rooms in which we talked about.
Is it something related to Humanity Incorporated?
No, it is not. I'll give you 2 more guesses.
Man, I can hardly remember those projects we did, but we did a lot of them. Is it a copy of that video that you guys recorded with the golf?
No.
We're referencing things that you guys will have absolutely no, subject matter or prior knowledge about whatsoever. So for that, we apologize.
Here, it's not directly related. It's something indirectly related. Maybe perhaps made a cameo.
It's a firearm.
It's not a firearm.
Well, I'm out of guesses.
Alright, 1 more guess. A hero.
Vladimir Lenin.
No. No, it's not Vladimir Lenin.
There's Vladimir Lenin in the box.
I got him. I took him from his tomb. We're gonna bring him back to life.
Alright, let me see what's in the box.
Alright. It is the O'Reilly Factor for kids. Now, do you want to say the jingle that we came up with?
Okay, so we just devised a jingle for Bill O'Reilly, and let's sing it together. Bill
Bill
O'Reilly,
O'Reilly,
he's an all-American war hero, keeping up morale on the home front. Bill O'Reilly is our favorite. We love Bill O'Reilly here over at we really don't, but we love to pretend we love Bill O'Reilly. So this is the O'Reilly Factor for Kids, a survival guide for America's families
I
by Bill O'Reilly.
I just want to point out, I've seen him on TV in 1080p, and he ages. The amount of makeup and photo editing
know.
that must have went into just this cover is astounding.
Look at his forehead.
Well, how are his eyes? His eyes aren't that blue. They're like bluer than his shirt.
So what does this book contain?
Well, I haven't exactly looked at what
People in your life, friends, bullies, parents, siblings. The chapter on siblings is called Siblings, Your Brother, Your Sister.
brothers and sisters.
Let's read the blurb.
All right.
There's no one more blunt, more opinionated, or more outspoken than the average teen. Oh, I thought they were going to say Bill O'Reilly. Oh, look. There's no one more blunt, more opinionated, or more outspoken than the average teen. Except, of course, Bill O'Reilly, veteran star journalist, anchor of the most-watched cable news program on TV, New York Times best-selling author, husband, father of two, and former teacher.
At what point was...
I love that. That's hilarious.
Was he anchor of the most watched cable news program on TV?
Fox News, I assume. I don't know.
Well, yes, Fox News, but is that still?
That's a good question. I would guess it would be MSNBC or maybe
Probably CNN, because both
Oh yeah, no,
MSNBC is still a bit liberal biased.
yeah, that's true.
Not as much as Fox News is biased in its way.
In his latest book, O'Reilly talks straight to the readers most likely to appreciate his direct style, teens. To be sure he's addressing their most pressing concerns, he responds to actual letters from kids who tune in to his radio and TV. Okay, quick stop here. I thought all teens were like super rebellious, like what teen is talking to Bill O'Reilly? He's like the opposite of a teen role model.
This reminds me, I believe it was the Clark Show or something similar. I believe it was on the Fox News radio station. It's something my father listens to that gives... This guy gives financial advice. He has...
Dave Ramsey?
Perhaps. He has...
My uncle works for Dave Ramsey.
I'll have to ask my dad.
I bet it's Dave Ramsey.
Anyway, so this man, he has zero debt. He has...
It's Dave Ramsey.
Alright, so anyway... I keep saying anyway and such. My father listens to him. The other day, I was coming home in my father's car, and I listened to it, and there were only 2 callers, but the calls seemed a bit like people on get rich quick things.
Dave Ramsey's all about get rich quick. It's crazy. I should bring home some stories about that my uncle tells about Dave Ramsey. We'll do an episode about that one time.
So he has one person called in and said, my friend, I put friend in, I use air quotes for friend because I'm pretty sure she was talking about herself. My friend recently came into some money from a check. Should she deposit it? And he went through the process of explaining to her, and not to be offensive to this woman, but she seemed a bit dull, to explain to her that this is most likely a scam, and the woman had said that her friend wants to spend it as quickly as possible. Well, not as quickly as possible, but just wants to go out and spend. And he explained that it's most likely a scam, and that depositing it and using it is a very bad idea.
It's a scam made by the Democrats, by the communists.
And I remember the other one being just someone calling in, I believe, to say I'm a big fan of your show and such. There's always a small, is it pronounced niche?
It's pronounced niche, but lots of people say niche.
there's always a small niche, including there's a small niche in teens who most likely will have a grandmother or parents who most likely grandparents who watch the O'Reilly Factor and Fox News, which will bring them in to such opinions. And I am a Republican, but there's a difference between a Republican and the people you see on Fox News.
And I'm a liberal, so we kind of balance out.
Out,
Out.
out, about.
I'm from the north, like the distant north.
You're not from Canada.
I am from Canada.
You are not from Canadians do not exist.
We want to apologize to any Canadians. We do make a lot of Canadian jokes. It's kind of like an inside joke among our group of friends. Maybe you guys will start making Canadian jokes too. To make it clear, I am a huge fan of Canadian anything. I love the Canadas.
I do. I sure do love the Canadias.
The Canadas.
I
North Canada, South Canada, Central Canada.
Quebec. I hear a lot of people.
Central Canada.
A lot of people will, when we're just speaking in classes about Canada, it's often that people will accidentally say Canada. Because they'll say Canadians and then they'll say Canadians is something something Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, and people get called out on it. Oh, in AP Human Geo, we have you want to say something?
No.
My teacher brought up something that has made her skyrocket in my eyes from just one of the teacher in the hard class to a hard class but a respected teacher, in which she said that people need to stop using the word like so much in their conversations. They'll go like. She pointed it out, just even though it's a bit of a dialect, she feels as if it makes you look, in a sense, stupid, especially if you want to get accepted into a college. And it could be a yes or no from the college if you continue to use the word like every 3 words. And there are people within our class that do such a thing. And she had one kid, she had her try to talk, she just couldn't do it. So every time she said like, when it wasn't in the correct context, she would just yell out really loud. And she, of course, apologized afterward because she didn't mean to seem abusive or such. But it made her, she's actually teaching something that not even barely any language arts teachers seem to bring up in speech patterns and how they need to be fixed in one way or another when trying to speak intellectually.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I love it.
You love it?
Love it. So, to wrap up on the Bill O'Reilly factor, there's not much else to say about old Bill O'Reilly. Let's here. You know what? Let's read one of the letters from here. You know what? You get to pick one of the you get to pick one of the topics. Sex, money, smoking, drugs, alcohol, friends, divorce, death, politics, God, and more. Pick a topic of those.
Well, I'm trying to pick the one that will be the most ridiculous. I've got 3 on my. I've got sex, I've got drugs, and I've got God. So let's start with sex and see what letters he's gotten on that.
And for what it's worth, we haven't read this, so maybe we're underestimating it. Maybe it's great. Okay, let's see. Oh wait, so let's see.
He's looking for a letter right now as he can't seem to find
Okay, you know what?
one.
I'm going to read Bill O'Reilly's story, and then I'm going to read the eyewitness reports, I think. Or here. Where do you think? Where should we start?
Well, you might as well just start where he suggested.
Okay. My story. I didn't have sex until I was 20 years old. Can you believe it?
Brag about it.
I was kind of a shy guy around girls, and I had absolutely no moves. I like that. I have more respect for Bill O'Reilly now. At the time, I thought I was some kind of a loser. But then I started to see the consequences of other people's choices. Some of my more aggressive friends got girls pregnant. Some married those girls. Most of those marriages were disasters, and the children suffered. More than one of the guys I grew up with ruined his life and the lives of others because he had irresponsible sex. That still happens today, even though abortion is more common. And abortion has its consequences too. Many girls who have Many girls who have abortions suffer terrible guilt their whole lives. The bottom line is that this sex thing is a big time serious. Looking back, I was darn lucky I had no moves. I had to wait for sex, and I'm glad. You know what? I have absolutely no problem with anything he said. And actually, the moves thing just made him go up in my eyes.
All right, so we're waiting. Are we just waiting for Bill O'Reilly to slip up?
Um, so, you know what? Here, I'm going to read, instead of making a big joke out of this, I'm going to read these eyewitness reports, which are like comments from perhaps teens or perhaps journalists, I'm not 100% sure. And we are going to comment on whether or not we agree with them, as sort of spark a conversation in itself. Okay, I think our youth has gotten lazy, and they don't, and by the way, these are not quotes from Bill O'Reilly, these are quotes from other people. I think our youth has gotten lazy and they don't manage their time well. Instead of doing their homework, they sit and watch TV and let their homework pile up to the point where it does become a problem. Agree or disagree?
In a sense, agree. Only.
I don't like the blanket statement.
I think it could have been worded better if it's trying to convey the meaning that I actually think it would be conveying. Besides just trying to convey a meaning of that kids watch TV too much and don't do home. We've heard that quite a bit. That's something we hear everywhere.
I dislike the our youth has gotten lazy. I mean, plenty of people have gotten lazy, but not everybody has gotten lazy. I mean, the blanket statement is a bit much, but on the whole, I mean, you can't exactly disagree with it. It's pretty understandable. Noah just left again, so, let me see if I can find something. Sorry guys, this is a little bit boring. Music madness. A 16-year-old guy emailed this comment to me the other day. I agree with you on almost everything, but you are wrong when you speak about Eminem. Here's only part of what he heard me say on TV about the famous. That's a typo. That's a typo, ladies and gents. Um. Bum. Ba-dum. Bum. 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 Oh, this is an interesting comment that he makes. Sorry for the boringness, guys. Noah's not here, so I'm kind of just trying to fill the gap. Every generation flocks to the music makers who seem to speak only to them and not to their parents. For me, it was Elvis and the Beatles, now revered worldwide as musical geniuses. But back in the 1960s, they were considered a very bad influence by some of the parents in my neighborhood. The parents of my day grooved to Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby, both of whom I love, by the way. I'm an old soul at heart. We kids thought these two guys were old and had no rhythm or life in their music. We were wrong, but so were the dissenting parents. We wanted our own music with our own messages. If parents were outraged, so much the better. They thought Elvis was a thug. They thought the Beatles were British wimps with sissy hairdos. They thought our music didn't have good words or melodies. Of course, we thought our parents didn't have a clue. And we were right. And we were right. That's kind of funny.
Okay, so what's been happening?
I've been reading Bill O'Reilly's comments on music. I really like it. Although, I think this is a bit... It's fun to listen to music that's new. It's fun to share it. It's fun to argue about whether emo or ska or screamo is worth listening to before they vanish from the scene. I actually kind of think that his comments on music are kind of funny. My story. I've always liked I do like this. I don't like rap, and I think gangsta rap, and he spells it Gangsta. Gangsta rap, in particular, is a total fraud.
Well, you're reading it as such a parody, in a sense. He may actually think that gangsta rap is is a form of, like, when someone will say LOL.
I believe that's pronounced
LOL.
LOL. um, but actually, I mean, and I can't tell if he's voicing full opinion or if he's literally just speaking to teens. I'm no big Bill O'Reilly fan because I'm a little bit more independent, a little more liberally skewed than Bill O'Reilly is, perhaps. But honestly, this kind of like teen written, like this was much less crazy than I thought it would be. Although I do want to point out that it says the O'Reilly factor for kids, not the O'Reilly factor for teens, and on the back it says he's uh, writing for teens.
Here, 5-year-old son, have this book and you can learn to read like the conservative you're supposed to be raised as. Whoa, is that a chapter on sex? Whoa! I'm gonna be hip and cool and gangsta.
By the way, the very first line in his blurb is, in his latest book, O'Reilly talks straight to the readers most likely to appreciate his direct style, teens. Bill O'Reilly, I want to just note that I personally disagree with the idea that teens are more likely to accept your direct style than, say, 70-year-olds.
Very active 70-year-olds that jog often. I'm trying to stereotype it down to. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. I believe we may be wrapping up on time a bit, and there's plenty of stuff that I'm glad to have plenty of stuff because we do plan to, in a short while, probably record the second podcast.
So hopefully you'll be able to listen to that, and we appreciate you for coming on the scene. Thanks for listening to another episode of Into the Multiverse. We really appreciate it, and we hope you've enjoyed the episode.
Bye.
Bye.